So the other day, I was thinking about how crazy the new brawler Kaze's kit is, with her two forms each having separate gadgets and star powers that completely change how she is played. But then I had a thought. Isn't it weird that brawlers like Kaze exist in the same world as Shelly, the tutorial brawler with an extremely rudimentary and simple moveset? The contrast of depth between the two are magnitudes apart, yet they still reside in the same game, to be played in the same game modes. And more importantly, they need to be balanced to the same degree, as all characters in a video game should be. Or should they? Many of you think it's obvious all fighters in a video game should be balanced, as you think back to a broken character dominating a game for months just because it was that broken. But does that mean they should be nerfed to the same level as everybody else? Well, no. And here's why. Some fighters in video games take far less skill to master than others. Let's take Kaze and Shelly from before as examples. Kaze has a movement-based attack with rotating hard-to-hit crit spots, as well as strategic supers that may only work when used in the perfect spot with perfect timing. On top of this, she is a completely separate form, which you can switch to multiple times during the game, and deciding when to use which form can be crucial for success. Now compare that to Shelly. Shelly is a shotgun that does more damage close, and a super that does the same, just bigger. She has no good movement abilities, and she ends up just walking into the face of her competitors, or attacking with temporarily increased range with her gadget. In terms of raw complexity, Kaze requires you to juggle 6 or more variables at once for perfect play, while Shelly just has 1 or 2. As a result, Kaze demands exponentially more hours to truly master, like chess compared to ball in a cup. But still, Supercell could technically balance them to the same level. Let's simulate that. Imagine a graph where a fighter's power increases with your skill. If both were truly balanced, Shelly would start stronger because she is easier to play, yet her potential would be just as high as Kaze's. In this case, there would be no incentive to invest time in mastering Kaze if you could just pick up Shelly for a few games and be in the same level as Kaze after 100. Now, let's change the graph to where it actually is in the game. Kaze starts lower, but as you master her, you become more and more better than Shelly. You're rewarded for your time investment and now have an advantage over competitors who didn't want to put in the time to master this high-skill brawler. However, you may be asking, why not just make every character as deep and skillful as Kaze? Well, there is a problem. Noobs. They'll be completely overwhelmed by that complexity and would be thrown into the deep end at the complete bottom of this graph, meaning they would have zero chance to win against anyone else who is farther along in practice. But if they are given fighters that are easier to play, then they can have a chance in the fight and actually have fun, which is crucial to avoid new players from just quitting the game because they keep losing. The real danger of this design strategy comes when the strongest characters are also the easiest. This will destroy a game's meta, and suddenly everyone is incentivized to use the same character. Only when there's a cost of time and skill is it good for a character to have a higher payoff. And that is why games shouldn't be balanced. You're not above it. When a new character comes out, you love to play it, and you love it even more if they feel unique and powerful to play. But a character can only feel powerful if they are better than other characters in the game. Genshin Impact is a prime example of this phenomenon. We all make fun of them for releasing broken, half-naked characters, so I may or may not have Googled that exact line in Google Images while editing this video. I don't know what I expected, guys. That are locked behind hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars in gacha gambling. But nonetheless, millions of people pay up. Why? Because it feels really good to be stronger than everyone else in a game. That advantage gives players a rush of gratification, no matter how much debt it took to get there. And that debt pays testament to how powerful this phenomenon positively affects people's emotions. Well, up until they see the credit card bill, of course. And that is why I don't agree with it being pay to win. But it still highlights the programming in our brains that lights up when we see a shiny new thing. That applies to other games that aren't so pay to win, such as Smash Ultimate. The DLC fighters were mostly accessible to everyone, and they were also, for the most part, better and more unique than the base game selection. Picking up one of them and finding you love it so much it becomes your main is a spectacular feeling, and this will never happen if they aren't particularly good. But if every character is good,
no one will be.
Having new fighters be especially good is also a great way to keep the game's meta fresh. Let me explain. Here are 2 identical tier lists for a game. For the one on the left, the game dev wants to nerf all the S tier characters so they stop dominating the game. So those characters are booted down and made much worse, and as a result, feel much worse to play, making all the many mains of those fighters frustrated that all their time and effort has been put to waste. Another option is to buff the underwhelming fighters to compete with the ones at the top, but doing this leads to a power creep very easily, and forces the game dev to eventually buff the entire playing field until everything is inflated and still unbalanced. Now in combination, these methods can provide a decent rotation in the meta, but can only be implemented in moderation and in small increments to keep the meta stable and people happy. However now, let's say we add a new fighter into the S tier. This will push everyone else down a small peg, but won't actually make them worse to play. The only difference is now there's another new shiny thing that they can try out. And instead of being forced to quit their main because it's bad, now they can choose to quit their main because of something new and unique. But it's a choice now. Nobody likes to have their arms twisted into something, but people love feeling like they captured a fun advantage over their competitors with this new good character. Also, there's another effect that doing this has. The new brawler may define the meta enough that lesser used brawlers suddenly jump up the meta, not because they were buffed, but because now they are a counter.
The guy I'm really looking for, wink, is Mr. Bribe, wink, wink.
It's a ring toss game.
That's it. I'm shutting this game down.
Whether you realize it or not, we all love a villain. Sports games get record viewership when there's someone the audience hates, not so they can cheer for them, but to root for their demise. Just like in movies, where a hero needs to find a unique strategy to overcome an all-powerful force, competitive video games often require finding creative ways to defeat meta-defining monsters. In Pokemon VGC, there are hundreds of viable Pokemon to choose from, but some see far more usage than others. Does this mean those overused, severely overpowered Pokemon always win tournaments? Well, surprisingly, no. If anything, they often have a disadvantage. Players expect to play against a specific team-defining Pokemon multiple times in a tournament, and therefore use Pokemon specifically designed to counter them. So because of this, what can be more impactful is using Pokemon that your opponents won't expect, and as a result, not be prepared for. The GOAT of VGC, Wolfie, is a master at this, and his best example is when he used Bronzong on his 2016 Worlds winning team. Before Wolfie, Bronzong was practically never used. I could lie to you guys and no one would know, but yeah, I was wrong about this. This is a total lie. I did a lot of research, but mostly on ChatGPT, okay? I know you guys do it too. And it just made up stuff. Like it said, oh, it's a niche Pokemon. Oh, like a 3% usage rate in that tournament. It's just not true. Bronzong was one of the most common Pokemon in that tournament. 40% usage rate. And ChatGPT just lied. Real quick for a better example, here's Wolfie's recent regional win against 700 other players. Like half of his team, this is his play rates. All less than 1%. All terrible Pokemon. The reason he won this tournament wasn't because of his broken Archaludon or Incineroar, with their broken stats, moves, and abilities. He won because of mediocre, niche Pokemon that were perfect for the meta. No matter how broken the best characters in a video game are, something unpredictable can still win and provide the edge. And that is why games shouldn't be balanced. So, should games be balanced? Well, obviously there's a limit. If something is completely unstoppable, brain-dead easy to play, and locks behind a massive paywall, well yeah, that's gonna kill a game. But as long as things don't get ridiculous, a little unbalance is exactly what tips the scales of balance towards perfection. We love investing time into something and rising above the rest. We love seeing a shiny new thing and getting to use it. And we love making a plan to defeat whatever is dominating the meta and succeeding. These things cannot happen in a perfectly balanced game. They can only happen in meaningful imbalance. And honestly, I wouldn't want it any other way. Well, except for the most popular game of all time, chess. The queen is absolutely busted. Infinite movement in any direction? Ridiculous! Throw out my entire essay, this thing needs to be nerfed.